In the personal story segment tonight, holding Hillary Clinton to account. Senator Rand Paul has been aggressively pursuing that.
Recently, you launched a campaign to hold Hillary Clinton accountable for her crimes. How are you going to accomplish that?
We're all for it. I think an indictment would be a good idea, followed by a prison sentence.
Joining us now from Bowling Green, Kentucky, to elaborate, Senator Rand Paul. Okay, Senator, you're maybe the first, maybe the only U.S. Senator who said that she should be locked up. Why do you say that?
Well, you know, I'm a big believer in equal protection under the law. You know, whether you're rich or poor, white or black, everybody should be treated the same under the law. I represent a lot of soldiers in Kentucky, Fort Campbell and Fort Knox. Every one of those soldiers knows they can't take classified information and have it on their personal computer, and they know there won't be any exceptions, that they will be prosecuted, they'll be put in a brig, they'll be stripped of their rank, and they'll be booted out of the military. And so I don't think it's fair to hold our soldiers, many of them enlisted men and women, to one standard and then say to Hillary Clinton, oh, well, she can do whatever she wanted. I think anybody else in this situation would have been prosecuted, including General Petraeus, who had a similar situation where classified information was not where it was supposed to be and other people had access to it. They didn't do anything to give him a break. He was prosecuted. And so, no, I think it's very unfair that Hillary Clinton wasn't prosecuted. And this is one among several reasons why I think that really her dishonesty should preclude her from really being considered for Commander-in-Chief.
Senator, why do you think FBI Director James Comey did not recommend her for indictment to the DOJ?
You know, interestingly, my own personal theory on this is that I think he wanted to indict her, and I think he feels guilty that he didn't. And I think that's why you got this long, detailed explanation of how dishonest she was. You know, she didn't actually lie to the FBI during the testimony, but she lied to the American people on multiple occasions. And he pointed this out in specific detail. And the FBI doesn't have to do that. So my sort of personal theory is that Comey feels a little guilty about not indicting her, so therefore he spelled out for the American people, so at least the voters can find out that she did lie many, many times to the public about whether or not she had classified email out there. You know, one of the classified emails that Judge Napolitano has pointed out was the schedule for Ambassador Stevens in the last 2 days of his life. You can understand why, you know, Ambassador Stevens wouldn't have wanted the jihadist to know where he was, when he was, and why that was inexcusable that Hillary Clinton would put that out there and not put it in a secure place.
Do you think intent mattered? I mean, we had been hearing up until the Comey decision that intent didn't matter. So it didn't really matter if she intended to send the classified or receive classified. It mattered that it actually happened. Apparently, Comey says intent mattered in this case.
Well, you know, there's sort of a technical legal detail, but a lot of laws you have to have intent. This particular law, you have to show gross negligence. So you don't have to show intent. You could just be extremely careless.
Wasn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
Wasn't she?
Yeah. That's exactly what Comey said she was, extremely careless. And so for many of us who aren't lawyers but do believe that words mean something, how is extremely careless different than grossly negligent? So, yes, I think she did violate the statute. But more importantly, she showed that her convenience was more important than national security, and that to me is inexcusable and goes to a great deal of her judgments that I think show her not fit to be president.
Well, you know, you say the term is above the law. Is she above the law?
I think often the Clintons appear to be. For example, Bill Clinton made millions of dollars giving speeches that had business before the Secretary of State. So one business wanted to sell electronics to Iran in violation of the sanctions. Bill Clinton got $750,000 from them. At the same time, Hillary Clinton was deciding whether or not she would let them sell things to Iran. Same way with the uranium company. Bill Clinton got, I think, $750,000 from a bank that was negotiating the purchase of a North American uranium company. Just so happens Hillary Clinton had to vote on that also. So the conflict of interest just goes on, and I think it's indictable. I think she should be in prison for it. But short of that, I think every voter in the country needs to know that the Clintons are in it for themselves. They're in it to make money, and they will make hundreds of millions of dollars if she gets in the White House because they will sell themselves to the highest bidder. Every voter in America should know that, and they should make a sincere judgment on whether or not you want somebody who's in it for enriching themselves or someone who actually would defend the country.
No doubt. Senator, there's some, let's call it this, there's some potential breaking news out there. Julian Assange, who heads WikiLeaks, says there are some emails that pretty much tie Hillary Clinton to knowing about some weapons that may have been going through Libya to some of the ISIS fighters. Let's take a listen to what you asked her back in 2013 Benghazi hearing.
It's been in news reports that ships have been leaving from Libya and that they may have weapons. And what I'd like to know is the annex that was close by, were they involved with procuring, buying, selling, obtaining weapons? And were any of these weapons being transferred to other countries, any countries, Turkey included?
Well, Senator, you'll have to direct that question to the agency that ran the annex. And I will see what information is available. And
You're saying you don't know?
I do not know. I don't have any information on that.
Now, if WikiLeaks, in fact, does have emails proving that she did know, what does that mean to you?
It's a felony to lie to Congress. You can get 5 years in prison. And we can't continue to say that the Clintons are above the law. I do believe that the CIA annex in Benghazi was procuring weapons, some of them to get them away from the jihadists in Libya, but some of it to ferry those weapons through Turkey into Syria. There have been many, many first-hand accounts. New York Times, London Times, Washington Times have all reported upon this. I know for a fact that the current Secretary of State is very aware of what the CIA is doing, and I can't reveal what I've heard from him, but I can tell you that he's aware of what the CIA is doing in Syria, and I find it hard to believe that Hillary Clinton, who all the news reports have said she was the biggest advocate for arming the Islamic rebels in Syria, many of whom turned out to be not only enemies of ours, some of them may have turned out to be ISIS, but some of them also turned out to be enemies of Israel as well.
All right, Senator, we're going to have to leave it there, and we will be waiting to see if WikiLeaks does, in fact, have those emails that tie her to knowledge of what you just, the question you just asked her, where she said had no knowledge. Senator Paul, thank you very much.
And welcome back to Hannity. So in a recent interview with the New York Times, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange had some harsh words for Hillary Clinton and the mainstream media. Let's take a look.
The American liberal press, in falling over themselves to defend Hillary Clinton, are erecting a demon that is going to put nooses around everyone's necks as soon as she wins the election, which he is almost certainly going to do.
Now, he was not mincing words there, but that's not all. In other interviews, Assange has said that he has, quote, significant documents that would be damaging to Hillary Clinton's campaign. Here to join us and explain more, the man himself, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Julian, how are you, sir? Welcome to the program.
G'day, Sean. I'm well as can be expected for being detained for 6.5 years without charge.
You know what? I understand. You know, part of me in the beginning was conflicted about you. And I'll tell you why. I believe in privacy. I believe that people, especially when it comes to private emails, personal emails, et cetera, and I think people have a right to that privacy. On the other hand, you have done a lot of good in what you have exposed about how corrupt, dishonest, and phony our government is, and I applaud that. I think that's good that we know that. Do you understand people when they talk to you about the privacy issue?
I do, and we've exposed a lot of governments. WikiLeaks has, we specialize in bringing the First Amendment to the world. We were always very surprised that one of our biggest battles would be trying to bring it to the United States under an Obama administration.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. Why do you say that that's a surprise to you?
Well, because if you see the rhetoric coming out of the Democrats is that they're pro-civil liberties, and an important part of civil liberties is respect for the First Amendment and the rule of law. And that is broken down under the Obama administration. And Hillary Clinton was part of that process. She has, and the Obama administration has, attempted to prosecute more journalists and journalistic sources under the Espionage Act, that same Espionage Act that she was being investigated under, than all previous presidencies combined.
Yeah.
Not just more than any one of them, than more than all of them combined. So there's, under Obama, an epidemic has developed of abusing national security laws to crack down on what is legitimate use of the First Amendment.
You said to PBS that you have a significant amount of information. The information itself is significant pertaining to Hillary Clinton's campaign. You will be releasing it in several batches as you are finishing it from a journalistic standpoint. How many batches, as you described them, do you think you'll be releasing, and how soon?
Tricky question, Sean.
Well, that's actually a pretty simple one. That's not
I think
tricky.
The first batch is reasonably soon. We're quite confident about it now. We might put out some teasers as I don't want to promise anything because you have to see how the formatting goes, but we might put out some teasers as early as the next week or the week after.
Last question. It's not really hard to hack into these even secure systems, is it? I've talked to some real smart computer friends of mine. They say it's far more simple than anybody would ever know. Is that true?
It is. I just want to say one thing. In the FBI report released Friday, I agree with your analysis. It is very strange that was released Friday afternoon on a Labor weekend. I do think it draws questions as to what sort of game the FBI is trying to play. But Hillary Clinton says that she can't remember what a C in brackets stands for. Everyone in positions of government and in WikiLeaks knows it stands for classified confidential. And in fact, we have already released thousands of cables by Hillary Clinton. Here she is, Clinton. See, that's her signature, Clinton, with the C in bracket right there.
Wow.
Thousands of examples where she herself has used this C in brackets and signed it off, and more than 22,000 times that she has received cables from others with this C in brackets. So it's absolutely incredible for Clinton to lie. She is lying about not knowing what that is, but it's a bit disturbing that James Comey goes along with that game.
Wow. Julian Assange, fascinating. I do hope you get free one day. I wish you the best. Thank you for being with us.